All right. Test, test,
Test.
test, test.
All right, we are back on Convincing Idiots. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We are Millennial Nick, Gen X Brian, and the Zennial Dean. Tonight, we have a very special show for you, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, we have the Battle of the Bands. Ow! So, without further ado, I am going to throw it to Dean because this, after all, was Dean's idea, and he's going to explain how. Like, let me give you a little Convincing Idiots history real quick, if I can prelude into this. We did a battle bracket before. This was of superheroes, and Dean was such a massive fan that he was like, "How can we reincarnate this concept that I held so near and dear to my heart, and how can we make it about music?" And then Dean was just like, "I got it." And then now we throw to Dean. Dean, what does a Convincing Idiots battle bracket really mean?
Okay. First off, if you've been listening long enough to know about the battle brackets, God bless you.
Wow,
We
yeah,
love
fuck
you. But if you don't, knowing that what Nick said was slightly askew, those battle brackets lasted like fucking 38 years. I mean, they lasted a long time. This will not. This will last.
They
a
started
few
before I was
episodes.
born.
That's right. But this battle bracket will be a battle of the bands, and the criteria is who we think the greatest bands of all time are. And yes, there's only 3 of us, and there are millions of bands out there. So we're gonna miss some. We're gonna miss your favorite. We apologize. This is our list that we compiled. It's not necessarily our favorite though, because like, excuse me, I have one of my favorite bands is. There's a band from back in the early 2000s called Dime Store Hoods that nobody would ever know about or have heard before. So I'm not going to put them on there. This is going to be bands that.
When you said that in the group text, I was like, "Is that something you made up?" I did not know
it
that.
is,
Okay,
it is actual band. They were
Okay.
only around for like a year.
Okay.
And the one album they have is delightful. But these are going to be bands that are commonly probably revered as the best bands, and we are picking our favorite from those.
Right.
That type of situation.
Or bands that we find to be the most musically talented, or what that we think are like incredible bands.
Correct. So we each picked 5, and then we came up with a one kind of just
free space,
and that we all just agreed, yeah, of course they would be on there. That they would probably overlap if we all did our choice. And
Johnny hates jazz.
No, it is actually Queen. Queen is the
free space. Yeah.
Okay.
I was almost going to put them on my list, but I felt like somebody else was going to. And when no one did, I was like, well, Queen should probably be the free space, and then we agreed on that. Right. So there we go.
Yep. So all of us put it in there, and I physically put them into a hat, and I did not cheat because there was one. I will even tell you, there was a one point where I pulled in him like, they shouldn't go against this person this early. I'm like, you know what? No, fuck it. Fair's fair, and I wrote it down. So I did not cheat.
Integrity.
The integrity. I don't have much in my life, but this moment in this bracket, I do.
So this is interesting. So you had mentioned, so we each submitted 5 bands, which gives us 15. Queen is the free space. So we'll probably say as we go along whose submissions were whose. So there might be points in the bracket where it's 2 of like both bands that we submitted.
100%.
I didn't even think about that. Okay, that's interesting.
It actually, the drawing of the names actually worked out pretty well. Where it wasn't like 70s band against 70s band. It actually is pretty solid and fair.
Okay.
There's some that are a given.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
We're going to say we had a non-biased witness of the drawing as well.
Yes,
right.
Ernie,
understand.
My best
cat.
friend Ernest.
Mhm.
Yes, my
Yes.
best friend Ernie. Yep.
He watched, and when I flinched to move the name, he put his 6 claws out, and
Mhm.
I got scared.
Yep.
So without telling us who, because I think I don't know. It's up to you guys. We're kind of doing this on the fly. I don't know if you guys want to say who's going up against who, but can you at least just name off, or should we go around and name the bands that we submitted or something, or do you just want to?
Let's just go into it because I
Okay.
don't remember who I put. and they're on my phone, and I didn't write them down. I wrote them down here.
I actually remember who you put.
Okay,
think,
good.
but-
Then you could, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and fucking say it. I don't know. I've killed a lot of
It's up
brain
to you.
cells.
I don't care how we want to do it. I'm just saying
Oh,
maybe
well.
we could go around and say the bands that will be in it because we're not doing all of them tonight, correct?
Well, I can
Right.
I can give you the brackets.
Okay. Go ahead. Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of want to be surprised to see the face-offs when we actually do it because I don't want to think about it before.
Then let's just get into it.
Okay, just do it.
All right. Okay. Round 1,
Fight.
matchup 1. We are going with AC/DC against the Beatles.
Okay. Okay.
Defend,
Mhm.
retract, argue. What do we
Whose
hear?
submission was AC/DC here?
Mine right here.
Okay. Whose submission was the Beatles here?
It's me.
Okay, you did remember that. I was ready to back you
did.
up. I was like, it was yours. Okay.
I did.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Okay,
All right.
so go, guys.
How do we want to start? Brian, do you want to... Actually, you know what? Since this is how we're going to do it. Who the two persons band is, the other person will start to give their opinion on it and kind of
Oh, so I'm
give
starting
their
because I
idea.
didn't submit either? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So here are two bands of varying degrees that I, on one hand, both appreciate,
you're
and on the
dumb.
other,
Brian.
I on one hand appreciate, one on the other hand don't totally understand the thing. I will start with the Beatles, and let me explain myself. I understand that the Beatles are widely considered as one of the greatest bands of all time, and in many circles, I mean, by many people, they are considered like the rock band. That's the band, right? Or at least 1A of 1A and 1B. So, I would say that the Beatles I didn't really know much about until I saw the musical Across the Universe, which was an incredible musical. We've talked about it before. I loved that
Yep.
movie. I loved the film. Evan Rachel Wood's in it, and Jim Sturgis is the other leading actor there. Doesn't matter. Anyway,
TV Carpio,
who? Oh,
the
who was that?
young Asian girl.
Yes. Okay.
Her rendition of "I Want to Hold Your Hand"
Jude. Yeah.
is just fucking haunting. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So the Beatles, I didn't grow up with a lot. I knew obviously of them. And I bring up Across the Universe just simply to say this. That movie both made me appreciate and kind of ruin the band for me. Because on one hand, I was never really into the Beatles, but I love that soundtrack and I love those songs. So I really got to know and got to love the songwriting and the way that those songs were composed. There we go.
Comprised. All right.
Comprised, either works. But yeah, so like I really enjoyed the songs, so it really made me appreciate the Beatles music. But at the same time, anytime I actually hear the Beatles versions of these songs, I'm like, I don't like them as much as like those versions. But I understand that the Beatles was one of those things in a place and time you kind of had to be there, right? At this point in time, music had never really been done the way the Beatles, presented it to, North America and whatever, and so on and so forth. So I personally am not like a big Beatles fan. I don't really understand the whole thing of it, but I understand that there's definitely some good songwriting there. Sonically, they don't really do anything for me, but I appreciate what they did, and I have a lot of respect for the Beatles. So there's that. AC/DC, I don't get it all. I don't like them. I don't never have. I think they're not very good. I'm sorry. I'm not trying. I can't fucking stand AC/DC. So for me, it's and I mean I don't know. AC/DC's. I get the type of crowd that enjoys AC/DC. Like I get the state of mind or the whatever, maybe that when they came along or the attitude that they bring. I liken AC/DC to, for example, my love of like the Ramones. The Ramones are not a good band. The Ramones are a feeling, the Ramones are a vibe, and they are cool. And they were a place and time. But I would never tell someone, like, from a musical standpoint, you need to listen to the Ramones because they're incredible musicians. So I kind of look at AC/DC under that umbrella. Not quite the same, but certainly that era, 70s, 80s rock band that kind of, in my opinion, the way I hear them sonically, kind of fits that mold. So that is kind of the way I break them both down. But I do... if I'm that's kind of the way that I view them. So each of you, please defend your submission. Talk about your submission. Enlighten me. Maybe I don't. I'm coming at this from a different angle.
We will give our argument, and then at the end of the argument, we do the vote.
Okay.
2 out of 3 wins, and they move on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. I will go quick.
Sorry, mine was kind of long.
No shit. AC/DC. AC/DC is a fun band. They were on my list. I took them off at the end because there was somebody that I swapped out for them. That it was just by band standards, musically, lyrically, was a better band. But AC/DC at one point was my favorite band in my teenage years. They're fun. They're just fucking rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
So if they weren't up against the Beatles, I fucking love AC/DC. But the Beatles to me are generational. They are not just revolutionary, but evolutionary. They progressed music to a place that it wasn't before, or at least helped place and elevate music to where it wasn't before, at least in the US. So I love both bands. I'm going to be more partial to the Beatles just because of their legacy and what they brought to, I don't want to be too over dramatic, but the world itself. So that's my take on the two bands. Brian, what say you?
Well, both bands certainly influential in their own right? So I'm, guaranteed. Of course, the Beatles brought a whole different sound. They were a unique band in the respect of, for all the guys were talented musically, with their respective instruments. They were a rare band where every guy sang, different songs, which was definitely very interesting. There's not many bands that do that ever. So, and they definitely evolved over time as well. I mean, you go back and listen to early Beatles 60s stuff compared to later stuff, it's really completely different. So they definitely had a lot of evolution and experimentation with their music, which made it, them a very interesting band in many respects. I mean, you listen to different albums, a lot of them is very different from the last one in many ways. And I like the different variations of the Beatles, frankly. I like to hear the old stuff. I Want to Hold Your Hand, to the more, the later stuff, which is all very interesting. Lyrics you go from very simple to more complex. So just again, it's a band that continued to evolve and experiment over their duration. It was a shame when they ended when they did. I mean, obviously, you talk about sales. If you want to get into that side of it, just tremendous album sales and popularity, and really a huge influence on pop culture and haircuts. It's just they were huge at the time. So. You could argue that I don't know for sure. I don't know if AC/DC...
You know how many teenagers they made look like assholes because of those haircuts?
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. And AC/DC basically came on the scene and said, this is what we're doing. We're sticking with the sound. that's it. We're not going to try to
For
do
75 years.
Yeah, we're not going to do much more than this. We like this. This is what we do. It's a steady rock sound. They don't get
Works.
they don't get too heavy. Their lyrics are not complicated. They just want to come out here, play some rock and roll type music. That's what it is. And it's just from day one, most of the guys stood out of the way and let Angus Young run around and do his thing, and he was the show. It's just a fun band, fun songs. If I'm going to sit around, and I did this for many, Back in Black was played in many, many nights around my place growing up in my 20s, even in 30s. Just if I want to sit down and play a party songs, and just sit around and hang out and drink and chill out with, AC/DC is going to be at the top of my list for that type of vibe. You know what I mean? You know exactly what you're going to get. They make me smile every time I hear them. So just from that aspect of it, when I associate, for me, the good times around the music, they both have some of that for different reasons, but AC/DC just has a lot of that for me personally. However, when you all things considered, we talk about musical talent, influence, and all the way around. It's really hard to say that AC/DC is a better band than the Beatles, and they would probably say that themselves if you sat down and asked them, right? So if I'm bad, that's I won't get on my vote yet. I'm almost kind of going there, but that's just what I think about both bands.
When you're done, you can end with your vote.
Okay, so I'll just go into it. Even though I love AC/DC, I also enjoy the Beatles in many respects, but it's hard to say that the Beatles are it's hard to say that AC/DC is an overall better band for many reasons than the Beatles. So I would have to give the Beatles the edge over AC/DC in that respect.
Okay, Nicholas?
I also, this is, if you couldn't tell from my conversation earlier, it's pretty easy out for me. Just on the respect alone and the name of the Beatles and all that they've influenced and stuff like that, I would have to go with the Beatles, absolutely.
We're going to make some playlists, by the way, Dave. I want to make some deeper cut AC/DC playlists that play songs for you that you're not as familiar with. I'm interested to know if you like them. Maybe that's something we'll do over the summer here on Fire or something like that. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, I'll be there. You know that.
Of course.
But, all right, so I'm going to go with my vote is probably obvious. We're going the Beatles, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's say if the guy that submitted the other band didn't even pick them,
actually, that's not true because there's someone in this bracket that I submitted that's going to get beat in my eyes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I did not.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not biased just because I picked them. There's some in this bracket. The way it sets up is just some bands are better than others.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, if I'm sitting on a fire and I'm hanging out, I'm not playing the Beatles.
Right.
Probably.
Absolutely.
It's probably going to be AC/DC over the Beatles in that type of environment. So anyway, go ahead, Dee. What's next?
John Bonham or Brian Johnson? Which one?
Ooh.
You mean Bon Scott? You mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I? Yeah.
That's okay. Fucking idiot.
That's all right. No, John
I hate him so much.
John Bonham's this fucking.
Drummer. That's okay.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin.
Go home. Yeah. Go the fuck home. All right.
You know what? The answer really is both, because they both. Wait.
I didn't know. I'm asking your favorite. I didn't ask the question of which one. I want to know which one you prefer. If you had to pick.
Elton John, clearly.
If I'm asking you David Lee Roth or fucking Sammy Hagar, you got to answer the question. So I want to know
Sammy
which
Hagar,
one.
easily.
I'm not asking that question. God damn it.
Sorry.
Bon Scott, got it right that time. Or Brian Johnson, which one?
Brian Johnson.
Same for me.
Yeah. I mean, I love Brian Johnson. It's just his whole, his voice fits that band perfectly. He stepped right in, and the first album he made was the top-selling album with Back in Black, right? But if you go back and again, just listening for the complete body of AC/DC work, Bon Scott to me just gets a slight edge as far as
Okay.
again, but those albums that he sang, and he just had a bit more of an edgier voice and tone and all that. So tough call, but again, those earlier albums with Bon Scott were just so good.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
Mhm.
Yeah, just was wondering. All right, Dean, what's next?
All right. We're gonna go the next on the same side here. Soundgarden against Queen.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a good feeling that we can go quick on this one. So,
Yeah.
Brian, go ahead.
I like a lot of Soundgarden.
Queen was our free
Fun-
space, just to throw that out there.
Right.
Yep.
That's why I just went to a random
Right.
because
Yep.
you had Soundgarden.
Right.
Yeah, Soundgarden, a lot, very good music. Definitely is, at least one very, very strong album. It for me, it ties into very fun times personally with the Soundgarden album with Black Hole Sun and all that. It was the year I moved out of the house of my parents, and it was a whole new stage of life for me. That album resonates a lot for me personally. However, Queen just too huge. Freddie Mercury, one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time, hands down. Super talented, lyrics, music, whole new thing. It's hard to see. I don't know how you could possibly say you say that they're a better band than Queen, but Queen is too big, too influential. Like I said, Freddie Mercury just too good. So that's it between the two. Yep.
This is
Dean,
where
go
you
ahead.
pick. I was
Oh,
going
you
to say,
want me to
Brian,
go?
this is no.
Oh,
You
no.
can go, but
Queen.
Whoever
Queen.
goes next should pick the next person.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
giving you guys a heads up.
Nick, go ahead. Sorry. What do you
Yes.
think?
So Soundgarden was my submission. They were one of mine. Love Soundgarden. They are not even my favorite of the Seattle bands, but I picked them because I feel like they are the most musically gifted as far as tacticians at their specific instruments. They're all fantastic. So, obviously I don't need to tell anyone who knows about Soundgarden about Chris Cornell, what an incredible vocalist he was. Kim Powell, for an incredible guitarist. Ben Shepherd, great bass player. Matt Cameron, who went on to also is now the current Foo Fighters now and Pearl Jam drummer, and the original Soundgarden drummer. Just all incredible musicians all the way around. And I picked them just because I feel like they were one of the most musically talented bands of the Seattle scene.
Sure.
Even the guys from Nirvana and Pearl Jam, when they were in prior bands before their own and made big fame with their own bands, they would tell you that they were in the clubs listening to Soundgarden. Soundgarden had been doing this thing since like 1987. So incredible albums, specifically Super Unknown and Bad Motorfinger. Absolutely integral albums for that scene, that time. And I love Soundgarden, and that is why I picked them. However, this is an example of where Dean said, even though I picked them, to go up against Queen, it's hard to argue with the star power of Freddie Mercury and Brian May. Certainly, I mean, I am never in any scenario in life going to choose to listen to Queen over Soundgarden in my personal life. However, I can't argue with what Queen
Respecting
did
the band.
and respecting who Queen was. And so even though I personally prefer Soundgarden, I would even have to cast my vote as the person who submitted Soundgarden to Queen. So Dean, you're up.
Okay. You guys said it all. When we do this battle bracket for solo artists, I will 100% add and put in my submission for Chris Cornell. He is to me, one of the greatest voices of rock and roll. But unfortunately, in the first bracket, when the names are pulled out of the hat, he got
Going up against Freddie Mercury.
Exactly. So shit. What do you do?
Yeah.
I love Soundgarden. I love Chris Cornell. But facts are the facts. It is Queen. Queen is... It's the reason they got a pass. So, yeah. So obviously, it's Queen beats Soundgarden. Are we on agreement? Any vote needed? All right.
This is 2 unanimous decisions in a row.
Okay.
So that's
All right.
surprising. I thought that as we went around, being that each of us submitted 5 each, I'm like, well, tiebreaker is going to come down to the
Sure.
person that didn't submit either one. So this is kind of interesting. I like this. Okay, next one.
This next one's going to be interesting. We have Aerosmith against The Who.
Okay.
I submitted The Who. Nick submitted Aerosmith. So Brian, you go first. Aerosmith against The Who.
Both bands definitely very influential in their own right. For me personally, I don't quite get The Who. I just don't quite get it. Very talented band, no question about it. Roger Daltrey as it's just awesome voice. Again, arguably one of the best rock voices of all time. Pete Townsend, again, the super great guitar player. There was a Keith Moon, right? Was one of the greatest drummers of all time while he was with us.
Right.
I never quite got the music. There's a couple songs I like of The Who. And Aerosmith for me too. The 70s Aerosmith, that era with Dream On and all that whole thing. I wasn't a big fan of Permanent Vacation necessarily. I did buy the tape when it was sort of the resurgence of Aerosmith in the 80s. It was okay. I didn't love it as much, and there's stuff afterwards. I'm not so sure. But when I talk about complete body of work, and if I want to sit down and just listen to the greatest hits of both bands, what am I going to enjoy? Miles ahead of the other one is Aerosmith over The Who. So I'm sticking with Aerosmith on this one.
Okay.
Who's going next?
Sorry, Nick, what do you think? Sorry about that. Nick, what do you think?
So I did submit Aerosmith. I do appreciate The Who. I like The Who. Kind of similar. I never really got real big into them or anything like that, but I definitely like the songs that I hear on the radio. Always enjoy them. I think they're very talented. I think they're very gifted musicians. So I do like The Who. I chose Aerosmith as one of my submissions, and actually Aerosmith was one of my late submissions, and I subbed out a different band for them just because kind of a little bit a nod to what Brian was talking about is because I look at them in a lot of ways like I do with Kiss. I admire the way that they hung in the game for so long and changed over the years. They adapted. Sure. So certainly a 70s rock band had that garage rock sound, and then adapted into the 80s and 90s with Pump and like you mentioned, Permanent Vacation. I actually really did enjoy that album a lot. And into the 2000s, they had almost a third resurgence when Armageddon came out, and then Just Push Play. They had Jaded, which was massive. So Aerosmith was one that I put in there, and I struggled with whether or not to put them on there because I was like, well, in my mind, I'm going with musicianship, in which all these bands are incredible musicians, but I'm like, man, it is hard to argue with Joe Perry's talent on the guitar. Steven Tyler is an incredible frontman, and the thing that maybe drives Aerosmith home the most to me, I love that they're rooted in blues. They always throw to those blues roots, and you can hear that throughout their music, and I really love that a lot. So I am going to stick with my pick with Aerosmith, just because and for a while, Dean, you mentioned in high school, you like AC/DC for a while was your favorite band. I had a big Aerosmith thing in high school where Aerosmith, I went to the Exchange every week.
Just last year, right?
Right? Yes. Whatever money I had that week at the Exchange, I would buy whatever Aerosmith album was next. I would do that with a lot of bands where I'd buy their greatest hits. And if I loved the greatest hits, I would go each week and buy their albums in order in which they came out, and I absolutely loved Aerosmith, and went and see them in concert many times. So I will stick with Aerosmith because I really love them. So that is mine. But Dean, please talk about The Who a little bit more.
All right, The Who, not only like Brian said, how influential they were. But if you go back and ask the Beatles and this band and that band, there's so many bands that the Who is their influence.
The
And,
Beatles?
Yeah.
Really? The Who
I'm
was out
pretty
before the
sure-
Beatles?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, the Who came out. Let me see here. I think the Who came out in where was I? Just saw it here. Okay. Anyways, so whether it had Dead Air, regardless, they're very influential on many, many different bands.
Yeah.
At a certain point, Brian, weren't they considered to be the loudest band
I think that is the case.
for like the
If I'm not
longest
mistaken,
time?
there for a while.
Like audibly the loudest band, on stage or whatever. But I mean, they are iconic.
They formed in '64, so right around the time of the Beatles, the Who.
Okay, so I might be off on the Beatles, but many other bands.
Sure.
And then you go to Aerosmith, and I would love to say, how amazing, the Who are, and it's a slam dunk. But you guys really, you guys really convinced me on this one. Just the power of longevity, and with that longevity, creativity. Like it's never stopped. Like they've evolved as they've grown. And yeah, Jesus, you might be right on this. What they did with Run DMC changed not
Sure,
only
yeah, we didn't even
music.
mention that. Yeah.
Not only changed music videos, but like music itself. If there's not that collaboration, is there a and fuck y'all, I know you liked it at one point, but the rock rap shit that went on in the early 2000s?
Well, that really resurrected Aerosmith's career.
Let's not
really.
fault them for that. But even like Anthrax, and
No,
Public
but you know
Enemy
what
or
I'm
whatever.
saying is like there's a lot. That changed music.
Yeah, no,
that
for sure.
brought rap up to a level, and like you said, Brian, just now, it kind of gave Aerosmith a resurgence. Like
It did, definitely.
what they did musically, just with that, I think just with the Run DMC thing, and everything you guys said is 100% true and accurate and deserves to be considered. But like for me, the Run DMC thing, for the face of music itself, is why I'm also going to have to go with Aerosmith. So another slam dunk.
There we go.
And I did pick the Who. So all right, here we go.
Right.
Aerosmith is moving on.
All right. So we got one more on this side. Is that correct? Is that where?
Yes.
How far are we going tonight? Okay.
Oh, geez, yeah. Looking at the time, yeah.
I don't mind. I was just asking. I just didn't know how far we were going with the bracket this evening.
It's up to you, fellas. I mean, might be a long podcast here. All right, but if this is the last one, our last bracket of the night, Metallica against Led Zeppelin.
Ooh.
I thought so too.
That's tough.
So I picked Led Zeppelin. Brian picked Metallica. So Nicholas, you have the honor of going first. Metallica against Led Zeppelin.
Well, shit. Those are two incredible bands. So Led Zeppelin is hard to argue with, right? Incredible band. Incredible songs that, I mean, there's always something to be said, and I guess you could say that to any of the bands that are in this bracket, but there's something to be said for a band that still gets so much radio play to this day, and all these years later. At this point, what are you talking, like 40 years later? Led Zeppelin is an incredible band. They made incredible songs. I don't know that I was ever like the biggest Led Zeppelin fan per se, but I appreciate their music and I don't dislike it whatsoever. So definitely a heavy hitter there. Metallica, absolutely. I mean, same deal there. It's hard for me because they are akin to one another in different genres of the rock umbrella. Led Zeppelin certainly more in that class. wasn't classic when it came out, but that 70s era, that garage rock, and I mean, not even garage rock, because they just had this polished sound from the get-go. But Metallica, certainly gods in the heavy metal realm.
Yeah.
Definitely respect Metallica. Man, shit. Those are again. I've always been more of a Megadeth, Mustaine guy. So Metallica, but I Metallica's got those catchy hooks and songs that same as Led Zeppelin, but in different sides of the sphere. So I actually, before I make my decision, I want to delegate to the people that chose them, and I
Okay.
want to hear a little
Fair.
bit more before I cast my final vote, because they are really close to me. But I want to hear you both talk about it. I think I know in my heart, in my head, kind of the way that I think I'm leaning, but I don't know 100%. So I want to
Okay.
hear everybody talk real quick. So Dean, Led Zeppelin, right, was your submission? Let's hear you talk about Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin is iconic as iconic can be. Same as AC/DC, they spent a good time of my youth as my favorite band. They brought almost I don't know if you want to call it operatic, but definitely like a almost a storytelling nature to their songs and their albums. And they stayed true to themselves. Like they didn't grow up and try different things. They were fucking Led Zeppelin. I mean, they everything about them is iconic. Everything about them is brilliant and beautiful. When I think rock and roll, it's literally one of three bands that pop into my head. I'm not saying they're my favorite and the greatest, but like when you just say, "Oh, you listen to rock and roll," Led Zeppelin is one of those bands. Now, Metallica is probably the other. Metallica is okay. So when I was probably Carter's age, probably about 10, 11 years old, I don't know if we can do the math, but the Black album came out.
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
92, 91.
Okay, so that charts. So for some reason my parents thought my brother was cooler than me, so he deserved like the cool music and stuff. So he got the Black album on a Walkman or display or whatever. And so he could care less because he's him. So I spent the whole fucking day listening to that album over and over, just rewound it, played it again, rewound it, played it again. It did have a very influential sound to me, the same as Dookie did with Green Day. That album really opened my eyes to like a different genre of music, and I can respect and love them for that. Brian, go ahead. Fuck, I don't know who I'm going to choose yet. Honestly, this is not easy because they are both the same band from different generations. If that makes sense.
Yeah, to different genres. Absolutely, they are. Yeah,
but like you had that same feeling about them. If you were that kid in that age or that kid in that age from that era, it's that same feeling. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hard rock metal. Go ahead. I'm a hard rock metal fan.
Go ahead.
And like you say, Metallica is sort of like you say, they're sort of like a Led Zeppelin of hard rock metal. I mean,
kind of godfathers of the metal scene, really.
Yes.
I mean, not. I don't know. I'd say probably Black Sabbath. But there's some, in a modern day,
you're right.
You're splitting hairs, but yeah, they're up there.
It's the feeling. It's the feeling you have.
Sure. And Metallica's
not necessarily
new album that's going to come out shortly. Actually, they're still making new music today, so they have a few songs out. Yeah, songs out now.
I have a buddy that flies all over the country to this day to see Metallica.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times. I tell you what, I'll take Metallica's first three albums: Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets. You put those three albums up against a shit ton of all all metal hard rock, and you're going to have an argument of what's the better album. At least it's going to be in the discussion. Without them, I don't know that you have the hard rock thrash metal scene. It would not be quite the same. I mean, these guys came on right in the middle of the glam rock of the 80s, and they just
They
came
had
out
the same
and said,
long hair, but it was just like messy and gross.
Yeah. They came out and said, we're just going to come out here in jeans and a Misfits t-shirt. Lars came out there with just no shirt and short, and just said, we're just going to come out and kick your ass with our music. And they certainly did. And arguably, I mean, you go back to that original lineup there with, well, of course, not Dave Mustaine, obviously, was with the original lineup, and he certainly went on for Providence and Megadeth, as you mentioned, Nick.
Fuck yeah.
But that lineup with Kirk Hammett and Cliff Burton, Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield, I mean, those guys all in their own right, just incredible musicians. It was a real shame to lose Cliff Burton. Anyway, but Led Zeppelin, as I said before, too, as far as the individual talent of each guy in that band, vocally and musically, it was a whole different level of talent. And I don't know. So, and it swings so many ways. It just depends what type of mood you're in, what band you think is the better band, and all that type of stuff. Metallica has always been one of my favorite bands since high school. They bring me so much joy just listening to them, but of course, so does Led Zeppelin. So, if I step back and say all the way around, if I'm talking about influence and individual talent, I'm going to give the edge to Led Zeppelin, I think, in this particular vote. Even though I love Metallica so much, I appreciate everything that they've done. And, if I'm going to sit around, again, I could easily listen to either band depending on what type of mood I'm in personally and have enjoyment. But again, if I'm just all the way around, I'm going to give the edge to Led Zeppelin on this one.
All right. This isn't easy. I have emotional ties to both bands, growing up listening to them equally, just different parts of my life. But like, if you want to consider like those bands that like open your eyes to like, I heard Led Zeppelin and it's like, this is music, and this is what music can be. But then I heard fucking Metallica's Black Album, and this is a fucking new dark pathway of fucking enjoyment.
Sure.
So, Chick, I think I actually have to do this to Nick. I'm going Metallica.
You guys are swapping. Wow.
Yeah. I think the way that I just remembered that Christmas morning with those fucking metal fucking head with the foam things, just blown away because because he got Metallica and I got Weird Al Yankovic, which by all means should be on this list.
So your parents had you guys pegged, not to say that Balin was a Metallica guy, but just the offset, like.
But the thing is, I love Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah,
Balin ended up listening to that album a lot, and I ended up listening to the one he got.
That's great.
Because like it blew my mind. Like I didn't know, like, I had heard different like metal bands and rock band stuff, but I didn't know it could like sound so melodic and beautiful the way, like, you know what I mean? Like, not like saying he had like a very
well, if you're thinking of like you're talking about the Black Album, like Unforgiven, right?
Yeah,
like it's so same deal.
Exactly.
My dad had a CD player downstairs that I would sit there and the Black Album on CD and like listen to that song over and over
Well,
again.
keep
It was just
going,
so
brother, because I
interesting.
picked Metallica, so now it's keep going because it's your turn. You're the tiebreaker.
They're, like I said, both incredible bands. This is very tough. They're very akin to one another. But if I'm really breaking it down to what band I have the most history with, what band I'd rather listen to, and what band has the more songs that I enjoy, which, is just kind of more up my alley, I've definitely got to go with Metallica. It's kind of the time that I was raised in, the music I was exposed to, and I tend to lean towards a little bit of the like heavy metal side, just the way I was raised. And like I said, I spent a lot of time with their albums. I heard a lot of their music growing up, and their sound definitely appeals to my personal preferences a little more. No disrespect to Led Zeppelin, because just
None.
fucking, like Dean, you said it best when you said they are like really, like when you think of like rock and roll, like a lot of this is subjective. A lot of all of these are subjective as far as when you grew up and how you perceive rock and roll music. But certainly Led Zeppelin are one of the godfathers of modern day rock music as we understand it today. So I definitely have a lot of respect for Led Zeppelin, but I certainly prefer, if any, 10 times out of 10, if you ask me, would you rather hear Led Zeppelin or Metallica song? It's always going to be Metallica for me, just personally. But I will pick Metallica.
To me, between those two bands are completely mood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're right, 100%. Yep.
So Metallica moves on. There we go.
Metallica moves on. So the winners of this week's brackets, we have the Beatles moving on, which will face Queen. And then we have Aerosmith against Metallica.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Very good.
But next week,
don't tell us
you don't
who's
want to go
going
next
into.
week?
Give me a random assortment of what other bands we will see featured.
All right,
I like
so
that.
next week,
give us
these are not going up against each other.
Alphabetical order.
I'm like, fuck you.
Do the alphabet.
With ELO versus Weird Al.
I barely know how to fucking read. All right, so and this is not the order they're going against each other. This is random. We have Foo Fighters. We have Guns N' Roses. We have Tool. We have Fleetwood Mac, Rolling
Out of
Stones,
alphabetical order.
Iron Maiden, Eagles, Rush, all next week.
Oh, interesting.
And trust me, guys, and I really couldn't have done it, honestly. If I would have purposely put these in order, I couldn't have done better than what the randomness did.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we thank the cat for his careful supervision of the drawing activity.
Thank you, my best friend Ernie.
That's right.
That's right. Ernie, I think as well, not only is he just very good at supervising, I've also heard that he has a heart of gold. He's so nice, kind, and friendly. And a heart of gold I want to mention here is one of our sponsors, Golden Heart Tattoo. Guys, he talked about Scott a lot here earlier. I think it was off camera, though. We won't talk about why
it had to be,
talking about Scott.
Yes.
It's my nephew.
Yeah. But Golden Heart Tattoo, a great tattoo shop that's done work on all of us, we mentioned before. If you're in the Northeast Ohio area and the Norton, Ohio area, give them a call at 234-706-2982. You can find them online at goldenhearttattoos.com or on Facebook at Golden Heart Norton, Norton. Look them up. Get yourself some ink. Maybe get yourself maybe an Aerosmith tattoo or something like that. So I don't know.
Scott has a very good story about that. Go ask him about the Aerosmith tattoo he did on someone named Steven Tyler.
There you have it. Excellent.
It's a good teaser for you.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and the thing we love about Golden Heart Tattoo so much, I mean, amongst the fact that they're friends of ours, we love them dearly. They've done work on all of us, and we were very grateful. They're close. They're local, right? We love how close they are. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, they're not so close to me. We have solutions to all of your problems. If they're not in walking distance to you, perhaps they're in riding distance to you. And maybe you say, well, I don't have a car. Well, maybe it's time that you hook yourself up with an electric bike from our friends at RPM Bike Shop. That's called a segue upon a segue. That's correct. Our friends at RPM Bike Shop could hook you up with the finest electric bikes today for your convenience. All you have to do is give them a call at 330-808-7792. Or you can type in the search bar on Facebook, RPM Bike Shop. There you can also see the wonderful products they have for you. They probably also have a link so that you can call them or message them directly. You can go visit them. They're located conveniently in Carrollton, Ohio.
Jesus Christ.
Whoa! Get back on that electrical bike there and ride your way on over to their website, rpmbikeshop.com. Like I said, give them a ring, 330-808-7792, and ride your happy ass over on your brand new electric bike to Golden Heart Tattoos. RPM Bike Shop, Carrollton, Ohio. There you go.
Our sponsors, Nick, I think they seek and destroy
They
the
do.
competitors with their quality,
That's right.
service,
Yes.
and products.
Oh, they kill them
How
all.
about
They
that?
kill them all.
Ah, you too.
Very good. Excellent. Okay.
I don't know what
Great
you do this for.
Huh?
The Led Zeppelin album. You were naming albums, so Led Zeppelin
Oh,
4.
okay. We were doing Metallica. But all right. Yeah,
Very
no,
good.
it's good. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Eat a
Well,
dick.
Nick, I think it's time to ride the lightning on out of
That's
another
right.
episode of Convincing It, number 135.
Ooh, 135. Look at that.
Wow.
Mhm.
So,
You
perhaps
should do this in the
James
voice
Hetfield.
of Jimmy Page.
It starts with James Hetfield.
I don't know what Jimmy Page fucking sounds like. Like
I
this
don't
guy.
either. I don't either.
Hey there, my name's Jimmy Page. And,
Wow.
and I'm not diddling on my guitar. Let me tell you something. Here's what I like to do. I like to head on over to Convincing Idiots' Linktree. That's a whammy bar. I'm Jimmy Page, so I know what that's called. It's a whammy bar. Anyway, go on over to Convincing Idiots' Linktree. There, you can find all of the links to their social media accounts. That's right. Back in the 70s, we didn't have social media accounts. But now...
How many people say that they're who they are in the middle of their sentences?
Jimmy Page,
We're in the
obviously.
future.
Dummy.
So now, since I'm Jimmy Page and I'm playing the guitar, I can tell you to head on over to our link tree. So, if you don't know where to find that, go on over to Google and type in Convincing Idiots, LINKTRE. That's just two E's because it's a tree. Jimmy Page here. So,
I'm pretty sure he's British.
You're not getting any fucking Jimmy Page impersonations on any other podcast. God damn it.
Because neither are we.
So, if that's not enough for you, then you go ahead and head on over to Convincing Idiots' website. That's right, I done told you. It's convincingidiots.wordpress.com. That's right. Go ahead over there for some tasty licks, eh, would you? It's alright, it's alright. So, for this episode of Convincing Idiots, I am Jimmy Page, a loser in the battle bracket.
Fucking that's 10 deep, whatever.
Jet X Brian.
Have we convinced you to come back for another episode of the Convincing Idiots battle bracket? Have we? Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, isn't it?
I hate you so much. Did you just see that shit? If you liked what you saw, like and subscribe. Come back. You're gonna wanna. in the middle of the sentence, I realized, oh, this is not probably what I should be telling before we try to do a fucking comedy show.
Is that what this is? Is that what this is supposed to be?
Oh yeah, nobody told you.
Oh no, I didn't know
wow.
that. I
Brian,
never
you didn't
I
tell him.
I never got that kind of vibe here, so I didn't. Okay.
This is awkward. This is awkward.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I thought we were a satirical news podcast. I didn't know it was a comedy thing.
So if you could try to bring the funny in it from now on.
Okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I mean, I'm new to this because I didn't know we were supposed to be doing that.
Maybe that's why you guys don't laugh at my jokes, because you thought I was being serious. But I'm now joking, so you'll go, oh, I can laugh at those hilarious things he's saying.
Well, this is no laughing matter, Dean. This is a very serious podcast.